was the only British nobleman to serve in the Continental Army. Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today we'll be discussing William Alexander, or as he liked to be called, Lord Stirling. So William Alexander was born in New York City, and he was distantly related to Scottish nobility, but when his father passed away, he realized he was the oldest surviving male heir to the earldom of Stirling. Now, interestingly, the Scots actually agreed with him and thought he was the rightful heir to this title. However, the English did not agree, and for all intents and purposes, the English actually ran Great Britain. So having the English not think you were nobility meant you didn't get the title, nor did you get the land that came with it. The lots and lots and lots of land in British North America that would have come with it. Now, that didn't stop William Alexander from going by Lord Stirling for the rest of his life, and he would introduce himself as such. And again, most of the colonists called him Lord Stirling. That's what he wanted to go by. And officially in Scotland, that was the understanding. So, Stirling would actually move to New Jersey, where he started a winery, one of the first successful wineries in the United States, at a time where most alcohol production was done locally, either at home or in your local taverns. Now, Stirling would join the Continental Army when the Revolutionary War broke out, and he was commissioned as a brigadier general. When the Battle of Long Island took place, he was there on Long Island in Brooklyn, also known as the Battle of Brooklyn, and he tried to hold off the British during the retreat while many of his comrades were trying to escape. Now, Stirling really hated the British. We've discussed many reasons that the American Revolution broke out. Stirling had this extra reason that they didn't let him be nobility, which really irked him, and he swore he would never surrender to the British. That being said, when you're outnumbered by hundreds of people because you're one of the last ones to retreat, it's either surrender or die. So he made the decision to tuck his head down and run through the British lines to the Hessian soldiers that were behind them, and he surrendered to the Germans instead. Now, Stirling would remain a prisoner for several months, but eventually he was paroled. And when he was paroled, he was immediately commissioned and promoted in rank to Major General in the Continental Army. And now George Washington had seen his heroic, we'll say, football-style run to the Germans through the British lines. Washington witnessed this from another hillside, and he was very impressed by Stirling, and he brought Stirling into his close circle, and Stirling became one of Washington's most trusted generals. To the point when, in 1778, Washington had to go meet with the Continental Congress for a few months, and he left the army behind him, and he actually put Lord Stirling in charge of the main body of the Continental Army. Essentially, Lord Stirling was commander-in-chief for approximately 2 months in 1778. And this is because George Washington specifically chose him to be. Which, again, usually these things were left up to the Continental Congress, but this is one of the few times that George Washington, we can see him pick a favorite, more or less. And Stirling was the favorite who was there at the time. There were other generals who were elsewhere in the colonies that couldn't just take charge in the same nature, so I'm not going to say he was George Washington's most favorite, but clearly he was on the list. Stirling would prove his heroics time and time again throughout the war, surviving several dangerous attempts. And then when Washington moved to Yorktown to, win the war, he again left William Alexander in charge of the Northern Department. And while you might say to yourself, well, the war was at Yorktown, that's where the big battle was. Actually, when Washington went south to Yorktown, the British started launching a lot of attacks throughout New York and Connecticut to try and draw Washington back, because they knew they were kind of in trouble with the French Navy surrounding Cornwallis by sea and the Americans descending on him by land. The British tried to bring Washington back, and he didn't come back. Instead, he left Lord Stirling in charge to fight those battles and make sure the British in New York City were minding their manners, so to speak. So, Stirling is around when they win the war, but it took about 2.5 years until 1784 before the Treaty of Paris was finally ratified and the war was officially over and Great Britain recognized the United States as an independent nation. Unfortunately, between Yorktown and the ratification of the treaty, Lord Stirling passed away. And this seems to be a combination of long-standing poor health and a penchant for hearty drink, so to speak. So, unfortunately, while he does see the war won, he never sees America become the United States. But he was a hero, and that's the story of Lord Stirling, Major General William Alexander, the only American noble, so to speak. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit like. It helps out a lot. And if you're new here, just stumbled on us, hit subscribe. I put out videos like this 5 days a week. And don't forget, there's a live one on Saturday where we'll talk about all the new articles I wrote for founderoftheday.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back to you with another Founder tomorrow.